Walmart may be in trouble for suspected corruption. Is the government investigating? I'm Catherine Rampell, reporting for Business Day Live. Tech reporter Nick Wingfield will be joining me from Seattle, and he will be discussing Facebook's strategic deal with Microsoft over patents. And Brian Stelter will be joining me to talk about Netflix. We'll find out if that company has recovered from a series of missteps it made last year. But first, let's talk about Walmart. Over the weekend, my colleague David Barstow reported on allegations that a subsidiary of the retailer had paid millions of dollars in bribes in Mexico. If true, that would be a violation of several U.S. laws, most notably the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, or FCPA. Joining me now is Peter Latman, who has written frequently about cases involving the FCPA. Peter, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, what exactly is this act? It sounds like it's the United States government trying to police corruption around the world?
That's exactly what it is. It's a very hot area of the law. As companies have increasingly gone global, what the U.S. government is trying to do is prevent U.S. businesses from being complicit in crimes taking place in any country, whether it's India, China, or in this case, Mexico.
And why is this controversial? Don't we hate bribery and corruption?
Well, we do, and we don't want to be a part of it. What some people say, the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, says that this is a statute that is actually preventing U.S. corporations from doing businesses in other areas because it's putting a chilling effect on companies from doing business in, say, China or India, where, oftentimes to expand your business,
you need to grease someone's palm and that sort of thing.
Traditionally, and the U.S. government doesn't want our corporations to play any part in that.
So what's happening with Walmart specifically? Is there an investigation going on?
Yeah, so they've said that they're in conversations with the government, both probably the Justice Department and the Securities and Exchange Commission. And Sunday's report in the New York Times really highlighted some very problematic behavior in Mexico, right? The indications are that not only were there bribery payments made to expand their business, Walmart's business in Mexico, but also that there was a cover-up.
Oh.
The FCPA, the statute itself, what it places a big premium on is self-reporting. So a lot of companies, realizing that there are problems in doing business abroad, they have very strict compliance procedures in place, and they'll say, okay, if you see these problematic ways of doing business in foreign countries, we need you to report this to the government, and then we'll work with you to satisfy some resolution. But here, it looks like there was a cover-up, and that could, really bring big problems for Walmart.
So, what kind of penalties could be in the offing if it turns out that Walmart actually was committing a crime?
Right. So, for companies that cooperate, typically what you see is something called the deferred prosecution agreement, where the company pays a big fine, and none of the executives themselves get in any trouble, and then life goes on. And some people are critical of that, saying, it's basically a slap on the wrist. Here, where they didn't cooperate, and there's some very, very high-level executives that seems to have been implicated in this, you could see something greater, which would be potential criminal prosecutions of individual Walmart executives or more serious fines for those individuals.
All right, well, Peter, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Our next story is about companies that play an equally important role in the U.S. economy. Facebook announced yesterday that it would buy hundreds of patents from Microsoft. That deal appears aimed at Google, which now dominates the landscape of the internet. Joining me now from Seattle is Nick Wingfield, who has been following the story. Nick, thanks for joining me.
You bet.
So in this deal, it involves Microsoft agreeing to sell a bunch of patents to Facebook that it just bought from AOL. I mean, literally, this happened, I think, Friday or Thursday of last week. Why was this a good deal for Microsoft in the first place? And if so, why are they turning around and reselling those particular patents?
Well, the big story here is in order to be a tech superpower these days, you need to have a big patent portfolio. And Facebook is about to enter the ranks of tech superpowers as it prepares to go public. Arguably, it's there already. Microsoft bought 900 plus patents from AOL, covering a broad range of technologies, but it didn't need all of them. It wasn't allowed, according to the bidding rules in that auction process, to bid with another company, so it bought them all with the intention of reselling them to someone else, and that someone else is Facebook.
And what does Facebook get out of this?
What Facebook gets is a stronger patent position. The ironic thing here is nobody really knows exactly what patents Facebook is going to end up with. Microsoft and Facebook haven't divvied up these patents, but in the end, Facebook will end up with about 70% of the patents that Microsoft bought from AOL. And that's expected to help Facebook prepare or rather defend itself against any kind of assault from the likes of Google. It's already being sued by another company, Yahoo, so that will potentially help in that case as well.
My understanding is that there have been suspicions or theories that this is also part of sort of a growing alliance between Facebook and Microsoft. So it's not just, you know, a one-off sale exchange, that there's some greater plan here. I mean, what is your sense?
Well, the relationship between these two companies is good, and it's been getting deeper going back several years. As I reported in today's story, Microsoft attempted to buy Facebook early on in Facebook's life. Facebook wisely rejected that offer. And Microsoft is an equity holder in Facebook. So there are a lot of connections between the companies, but I think Microsoft also sees Facebook as a bulwark against Google's supremacy on the internet. Microsoft on its own has not been particularly successful at competing with Google in search. And there is a belief that ultimately Facebook might get into search itself and could help shift the balance of power somewhat on the internet, which is rather lopsided right now in Google's favor. Of course, that would also mean Facebook would compete more with Microsoft itself, which is also in the search business, but who knows how this might ultimately work out if they continue to partner, Facebook and Microsoft, down the line.
All right, well, Nick, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Finally, Netflix reported its earnings yesterday. The company said it added nearly 3 million users. That comes after a year of gaffes and missteps. Brian Stelter from our media desk has been watching the company, and he is joining me now. Good morning, Brian.
Morning.
Thanks very much. Netflix said that it added all of these new users, but yesterday its share price tanked. So how do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah. It seemed that the investors are reacting negatively to the company's prospects about growth in the quarter that's happening right now. The stock dropped about 16% after hours. Right now it's down about 13%. So it's recovered a little bit off of what happened last night, but it's still down about $15 just off of where it was when it closed yesterday afternoon. It seems to be the reaction to the company's statements that it's going to grow in the second quarter, but not as fast as it did in the first quarter. There's a lot of questions about how Netflix is going to grow and where the growth is going to come from, because they've said overseas it's been harder to grow than they expected, and they've said in the U.S. there's a lot of people that cancel and then come back and then cancel and then come back.
Right, and this has been a major issue right in the last year that Netflix is believed to have made some missteps in trying to spin off its DVD by mail service and raising the price, the monthly subscription price, and that sort of thing. So how much are they still being punished for those steps last year?
There's still a bad taste in some consumers' mouths about what happened with Netflix last year, and that's why we're seeing that churn rate be kind of high, people coming in and out of the service. But the fact that it's growing overall proves people want streaming video. This is the way they want to watch content. I asked the CEO yesterday, Reed Hastings, is it because more people are getting broadband or because more people want streaming video once they have broadband? He thinks it's the latter. He thinks people are waking up to the idea that content's on demand, especially shows like Mad Men and Community that they have all old seasons to watch of. And they think people want to watch that library of content, but people are very price sensitive these days. And so we have sometimes people coming in for a month and leaving, and that kind of churn is making investors wary.
Given that there are concerns about the current quarter for Netflix, what's the outlook going forward?
Yeah.
I mean, especially since there have been these statements about whether Netflix can grow as quickly abroad and so on.
Well, Netflix says it's going to grow as strongly through the whole year as they expect to, about 7 million subscribers for the full year. They just say the spring is going to be worse for them. They say that the winters are going to be better than the summers going forward. Some investors do believe that, but we're still seeing the stock get hurt a bit for that reason. I'm particularly interested in next year, 2013, because that's when we're going to see all of Netflix's original shows come on. Shows like Arrested Development that they're remaking, a show called House of Cards, this drama that's being produced. The shows are still a ways away, though, and what I wonder is whether Netflix is going to hold on to those customers in the meantime. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to watch those shows next year.
Yeah, they might hold out until
they've got
Arrested
9 months
Development
until
actually,
then.
right?
Exactly.
Well, Brian, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks.
That's all for today. Please stay with us online at nytimes.com for our continuing coverage of this and other stories. I'm Catherine Rampell, reporting for Business Day Live. Thanks for watching.